The first time my former son-in-law saw his daughter, she was 4 years, 7 months, and 3 days old. I know the exact number because I counted later. At the time, all I knew was that Brent Caldwell had just leaned toward me at my niece's wedding and said something no father forgets. Jim, leaving Claire was the smartest decision I ever made. He actually smiled when he said it. We were standing beneath string lights at a vineyard outside Charlottesville, Virginia. There was bluegrass playing near the reception tent. People were drinking bourbon cocktails out of mason jars. My wife, Diane, was 20 feet away talking to the bride's mother. My daughter Claire was near the dance floor. And Brent was standing beside the woman he had left her for, Paige Morgan, Claire's former best friend. Brent looked good. Expensive navy suit. New watch. Whiter teeth than I remembered. The kind of man who had spent 5 years convincing himself that if his life looked polished enough, nobody would ask what it had cost. Paige laughed beside him. Not loudly. Just enough. I looked at Brent. You seem happy with the decision. I am. He took a sip of his drink. Best thing I ever did for myself. Then he nodded toward Claire. She looks good too. There was something in the way he said it. Like he wanted credit for that. Like breaking a person was somehow generous if they eventually healed. I was deciding whether to answer when a little girl in a yellow dress came running across the lawn. Mommy! Claire turned. And smiled. That smile mattered. Because 5 years earlier, I had watched my daughter sit in my truck outside a Panera Bread and stare at an ultrasound picture like it belonged to someone else. Now she bent down and caught the little girl in both arms. Hey, Bug. The girl was laughing. Her name was Emma. My granddaughter. She had Claire's shin, Claire's stubborn little half-smile, and Brent Caldwell's eyes. I looked at Brent. He had stopped smiling. Emma turned toward the reception tent. Then she saw a tall man walking toward us, carrying 2 juice boxes and a child-sized cardigan over one arm. She lit up. Not politely. Not because someone told her to. The way children light up when they see home. Daddy. She ran past Brent. Straight to Aaron Whitaker. Aaron crouched. Emma crashed into him. He lifted her with one arm and handed her the purple juice box because he already knew that was the one she wanted. Then Emma rested her head on his shoulder. Brent didn't move. Neither did Paige. But they reacted differently. Brent looked stunned. Paige looked scared. That distinction bothered me immediately. Aaron walked over. Jim, you want one? He held up the second juice box. Depends. Is it bourbon? Apple gad. I'll risk dehydration. Emma giggled. Then she looked at Brent. Children can feel adults staring. She whispered something into Aaron's ear. Aaron looked at Claire. Claire looked at me. Nobody said anything. Finally, Emma asked, Mommy, who's that man? I watched Brent's face change. There are sentences that hurt because they re-cruel. That one hurt because it wasn't. She genuinely didn't know him. Claire answered carefully. That's Brent. Emma nodded. Okay. That was all. No music stopped. No glass shattered. Nobody gasped. The photographer kept taking pictures. The caterers kept clearing plates. And I remember thinking that life can deliver a punishment so quietly you almost miss it. Brent spent 4 years choosing not to know his daughter. It took her about 4 seconds to return the favor. But that wasn't the part that started the real story. That happened the next morning. At 8:17, my phone rang. I was standing in the hotel lobby with a paper cup of coffee when I saw the name. Barbara Caldwell, Brent's mother. I hadn't spoken to Barbara in almost 5 years. I answered. Barbara? She didn't say hello. She said, Jim, who was that little girl with Claire last night? I looked toward the elevators. Emma. Silence. Then. How old is she? Something about her voice made my stomach tighten. 4. How old? 4 years and 7 months. Another silence. Longer? Then Barbara whispered, Oh my God. I set my coffee down. What? Jim. What? Her voice shook. Why does that little girl have my son's eyes? That was the moment I realized we had a problem much bigger than Brent's regret. Because Barbara Caldwell wasn't pretending she didn't know about Emma. She truly didn't. And 5 years earlier, someone had made very sure of that. 5 years earlier. My daughter Claire had been married to Brent for 17 years. They met their senior year at Virginia Tech. He was studying business. She was finishing occupational therapy prerequisites. They dated 2 years. Married at 24. Bought a brick colonial in Midlothian. Nothing fancy. 4 bedrooms if you were generous. 3, if you believed a bedroom needed more than one outlet. Brent worked for Caldwell Building Supply, the regional distribution company his parents had started when he was a teenager. Claire became a pediatric occupational therapist. They were never rich, but they were comfortable. Good schools. Family vacations. A deck out back. 2 Labrador retrievers over the years. Costco membership. The whole middle-class American package. I liked Brent. That is important. I wasn't the father who hated every man near his daughter. Brent called me Jim. We watched football. He helped me replace the roof over my garage. When his father died, I drove him home from the funeral because he had too much bourbon. For a long time, I thought of him as family. Which is why I missed the change at first. Claire didn't. Brent started getting home later. Not dramatically. 20 minutes. Then 45. Then client dinner. Inventory problem. Regional meeting. The normal vocabulary people use when they hoping routine will disguise dishonesty. His phone changed too. Face down at dinner. New passcode. Bathroom trips that somehow required an iPhone. Claire noticed. She asked. He denied. Then he did something more effective than denial. He made her feel unreasonable for asking. You becoming paranoid. You know how busy work is. Do you want me to quit? No. Then stop interrogating me every time I walk through the door. That kind of thing. And then there was Paige. Paige Morgan had been Claire's best friend since college. She had stood beside Claire at her wedding. She knew our birthdays. Knew where the spare key was. Knew which cabinet Claire kept the wine glasses in. And when Claire started worrying about Brent, Paige was the person she called. That detail still makes me angry. Because Paige didn't just have an affair with my daughter's husband. She listened while Claire cried about it. She reassured her. She told her. You overthinking this. She told her. Brent loves you. Then she went home and slept with him. I have spent 32 years in commercial insurance claims. A good portion of that involved fraud. Staged losses. Inflated invoices. False statements. People lying with paperwork in front of them. That career taught me something. The most damaging liar usually isn't the person who can invent the best story. It's the person who already knows what you were afraid of. Paige knew exactly what Claire feared, and she used that knowledge to keep her calm while the affair continued. The thing that finally broke it open was not lipstick, not a text message, not perfume. It was a hotel receipt. Brent had told Claire he was attending a 2-day supplier conference in Norfolk. The receipt in his jacket came from a boutique hotel in Richmond, 40 minutes from their house. 2 guests. King room. Room service for 2. Claire put it on the kitchen island. She called Brent. Come home. He said he was busy. She said, I found the receipt. 22 minutes later he walked in. Claire was sitting at the island. She didn't yell. That scared him more. She slid the receipt toward him. Who? Brent looked at it, then at her. Claire. Who? And before he could answer, the mudroom door opened. Paige walked in, with her own key. I wasn't there. Claire told me later that the worst part wasn't even seeing Paige. It was watching both of them realize at the same time that there was no good lie left. Paige stopped 3 steps inside. Brent closed his eyes. Claire looked from one to the other. Then she said, Oh. Just that. Oh. Sometimes a marriage ends in 1 syllable. The pregnancy. Brent moved out within 48 hours. Paige moved into his apartment not long after. The divorce started moving fast. Brent wanted what he called a clean break. I hated that phrase. Clean. There was nothing clean about it. 3 weeks after Brent moved out, Claire called my wife from work. She said, "Mom, I need you to come get me." Diane asked if she was sick. Claire said, "I don't know." She was 40. She had spent years assuming children probably weren't going to happen. Then, 3 weeks after her husband left her for her best friend, 2 lines appeared on a pregnancy test. I still remember Claire sitting at our kitchen table that night. She hadn't cried yet. She kept rotating the test between her fingers. I said, "You don't have to decide anything tonight." She nodded, then said, "I know what I want." "What?" "I want the baby." Diane squeezed her hand. I asked the question fathers sometimes ask, because we think every problem should have an immediate next step. "When are you telling Brent?" Claire looked at me. "I don't know if I am." I should have stopped there. Instead, I said, "He deserves to know." Claire laughed once. Not because it was funny. Deserves? I corrected myself. The child deserves not to have adults hiding facts. That was a better sentence. Still incomplete. I believed something back then that I no longer believe. I thought fatherhood could wake a man up. I thought maybe Brent had failed as a husband, but would hear the word baby and discover some deeper part of himself. That was my mistake. I encouraged Claire to tell him in person. A week later, they met at a Panera off West Broad Street. I drove Claire. She wanted me nearby but not inside. So I sat in my truck. 36 minutes. I remember, because I checked the clock about 20 times. Then Claire came out. She opened the passenger door. Got in. Closed it. She was holding the ultrasound printout. I waited. Finally I asked, "What did he say?" Claire stared through the windshield, then repeated it. First Brent had looked at the ultrasound. Then he said, "You think having a baby is going to make me come back?" Claire told him no. She said, "I'm telling you because this is your child." Brent pushed the picture back across the table. Then he said, "Keep it." I remember gripping the steering wheel. Claire continued, "He said he wants no ties." I looked at her. "No ties?" He said, "I don't want anything connecting me to you after the divorce." I wanted to go inside. I really did. I wanted to walk into that Panera, find Brent Caldwell, and introduce his teeth to a table. Claire stopped me. "Dad." I looked at her. "Drive." So I drove. And on the way home, I learned the first lesson this story would teach me. You cannot force a man to become a father by explaining fatherhood more clearly. He either chooses it, or he doesn't. EMMA. Emma Grace Holloway was born on a rainy Thursday morning in Richmond. 7 pounds, 2 ounces. Healthy. Loud. Angry at fluorescent lighting. I liked her immediately. Brent was notified. His attorney received the relevant information through Claire's attorney. He did not come. He did not call. He did not send flowers. He did comply with what the court required financially, while his legal obligations remained in place. That distinction matters. I'm not going to turn Brent into a cartoon villain by claiming he vanished from every responsibility. The automatic support payments came. What didn't come was Brent. No birthday. No first Christmas. No, "How is she?" No picture request. No doctor appointment. No emergency contact form. Nothing. And then Claire made one decision I didn't understand until years later. She mailed a certified envelope to Barbara Caldwell, Brent's mother. Inside was a photograph of newborn Emma. A short note. No accusation. Claire wrote, "Barbara, you have a granddaughter. Whatever happened between Brent and me is between adults. I don't know what Brent has told you. I only believe you have the right to know Emma exists. If you ever want contact, you can reach me through my attorney until things are calmer. Claire." She mailed it certified. I kept the receipt. Not because I expected trouble. Because I had spent 3 decades in claims and had become the kind of man who kept tracking numbers for envelopes that contained birthday cards. The postal record said it was delivered. Signed for P. Morgan. Page. At the time, we assumed Barbara chose not to respond. Claire never sent another one. She told me. I gave her one door. She didn't walk through it. We moved on. Or thought we did. Aaron. Aaron Whitaker did not arrive like a Hallmark movie. No billionaire. No private jet. No immediate rescue. He was a 43-year-old civil engineer with a small infrastructure consulting company and a 12-year-old pickup that made a clicking noise every time he turned left. His wife had died from breast cancer 4 years earlier. He had no children. Claire first met him at a weekend volunteer project building accessible garden beds for a rehabilitation center. She was 6 months pregnant. Aaron saw her trying to drag a bag of soil. He said, "You know there's an entire parking lot full of people who can lift that." Claire said, "I know. You still lifting it?" "Yes." "Should I ask why?" "No." "Great." He took the other end. That was apparently their first conversation. Aaron was patient, but not perfect. That's one reason I ended up trusting him. Perfect people make me nervous. A month after Emma was born, Claire's car needed 2 new tires. Aaron had them replaced while Claire was inside the pediatrician's office. He thought he was helping. Claire came out and got furious. "You don't get to fix things without asking me." Aaron started to explain. Stopped. Then said, "You were right. That was it." "No. I was only trying to help." "No. You were overreacting." No turning her boundary into his injury. He apologized. And never did it again. I noticed. So did Claire. When Emma got RSV at 9 months, Aaron sat in the emergency room all night. He didn't hold Claire's hand unless she reached for his. He brought bad coffee. He charged her phone. He remembered the insurance card was in the side pocket of the diaper bag. Ordinary things. That's where fatherhood usually hides. Not in speeches. In knowing which pocket has the insurance card. When Emma was about 11 months old, Aaron walked into Claire's kitchen after work. Emma was in her high chair. She saw him, raised both hands, and said, "Dada." Aaron froze. Claire laughed. Then she saw his face. He turned away, walked toward the sink, pretended to need water. Claire followed him. He was crying. He said, "I don't want you to think I'm trying to take somebody's place," Claire answered. "You are not taking anybody's place." "What does that mean?" "It means she called the man who shows up." That was all. A year later, Claire married Aaron. Small ceremony. Backyard. 26 people. Emma carried a plastic basket full of flower petals and dumped all of them in one spot. It was perfect. Later, Aaron began the process of legally adopting Emma as his stepdaughter. Brent received the paperwork. He had counsel. He had time. He signed the consent. He did not contest it. The court completed the adoption. That document would become very important. But not for the reason I first thought. Back to the wedding. 5 years after Brent left Claire, he saw Emma for the first time. At least, the first time in person. And the next morning, Barbara Caldwell called me. "Why does that little girl look like Brent?" I asked. "What exactly did you think happened?" Barbara started crying. Not dramatically, quietly, like an older woman trying not to let someone hear her from the next room. She said, "Paige told me Claire lost the baby. I didn't understand." "What?" "Years ago." "When?" "I don't remember exactly. Before Christmas." "Paige called you?" "Yes." She said the pregnancy didn't continue. My hand tightened around the phone. "Did Brent tell you the same thing?" Barbara hesitated. "He didn't want to discuss Claire." "That isn't what I asked." Another pause. "He never corrected it." "That was different. Important. But different." Barbara said, "Jim, I would have wanted to know." "You were told." "No, I wasn't." "We mailed you a certified letter when Emma was born." Silence. Then, "No." "Yes." "I never received anything." "Someone did." "Who?" I already knew the answer, but I wanted to hear my own voice say it. "Paige." Barbara went completely quiet. Then she whispered, "Oh God." That was the first twist. For about 24 hours. I thought Paige had done all of it. I thought maybe she had intercepted the letter, lied to Barbara, controlled what Brent knew, and slowly cut every road between Emma and her biological family. That possibility disturbed me for another reason, because it gave Brent an excuse, and part of me wanted one. I didn't realize that at the time. Fathers like simple villains. One bad person, one betrayal, one clean explanation. It lets you keep believing everyone else was merely fooled. Life is rarely that generous. Brent called Celie. That afternoon, Brent called my daughter. She ignored the first 3 calls, answered the 4th. Aaron was beside her. I wasn't. Claire told me afterward. Brent said, "Emma is my daughter." Claire responded, "Biologically, yes. You never let me know her." Claire almost hung up. Instead, she said, "You knew I was pregnant." "That's not the same thing. You received notice when she was born. I never saw anything. You signed the adoption consent." Silence. Then Brent said, "I didn't understand what I was signing." That sentence changed everything. Claire didn't yell. She said, "Brent, you had a lawyer." "I signed what he sent. You signed a document that contained your daughter's full name." Another silence. Claire continued, "You knew she existed." Brent said, "I made mistakes." Claire answered, "No." That sounded harsh until she explained. Forgetting an anniversary is a mistake. Buying the wrong birthday present is a mistake. You knew your daughter existed. You made a decision." Brent hung up. I thought that might be the end. It wasn't. The next day he asked to meet Emma. The first meeting. Claire didn't say yes immediately. She and Aaron talked to a family counselor, then to their attorney. Then, eventually, Claire agreed to one short meeting in a public park. Aaron would be there. So would Claire. I offered to come. Claire said, "No." "Why?" "Because you'll stare at him like you're redeciding where to bury the body." "That's ridiculous." "Dad." "Fine." I sat in my truck across the street. Apparently my family has a tradition of making me wait in cars during emotionally important events. Brent showed up 10 minutes early. That surprised me. He brought a giant gift bag. Claire stopped him before he reached Emma. "What's that?" "A present." "I told you no expensive gifts." "It's just a doll." "What kind?" He hesitated. "It was a $300 interactive doll." Claire said, "Put it back in the car." Brent looked embarrassed. But he did. That mattered. Old Brent would have argued. Instead, he returned without it. Emma was feeding ducks. Brent sat about 6 feet away. He said, "Hi, Emma." She looked at Claire. Claire nodded. Emma said, "Hi, Brent." Brent flinched, almost invisibly. He asked about the ducks. Emma explained, in great detail, that ducks should not eat bread. Brent listened. After 15 minutes, Emma got bored and ran to Aaron. She grabbed his hand. "Daddy, come see the one with the green head." Brent looked down. The meeting lasted 27 minutes. When it was over, he asked Claire, "Can I see her again?" Claire said, "Maybe." That night she called me. "What do you think?" I said. He showed up. "That's a low bar. Sometimes you start low." She was quiet. Then she said, "Dad, I'm not giving him the word father because he managed one Saturday." "I know. But part of me hoped. That is another thing I have to admit. I wanted Brent to change. Not for Brent, for Emma, for Claire. Maybe even for me. I had spent 5 years believing a man I once loved like family had voluntarily abandoned my granddaughter. The idea that he could become better felt easier than accepting that sometimes people understand exactly what they're redoing and still choose wrong. Six days. Brent kept coming. Every Saturday. No gifts. Then a coloring book. Then a children's book. Nothing expensive. He learned Emma liked strawberries but hated strawberry yogurt. He learned she was afraid of hand dryers in public restrooms. He learned she called every golden retriever Muffin because that was the dog in one of her books. He showed up on time. One Saturday, it rained. He still came. Another Saturday, he drove 2 hours back from a business meeting so he wouldn't cancel. Emma slowly stopped hiding behind Claire. Then one afternoon, she ran toward him and said, "Hi, Brent." He smiled. Not because she had called him Dad. She hadn't. Because she had remembered he was coming. I saw that. And I let myself believe something. Maybe he really was changing. Then, after the 6th Saturday, Brent asked me to coffee. Just me. We met at a diner near Short Pump. He looked tired. Not broken. But less polished. He asked, "Did Barbara ever get the letter?" That caught my attention. Why? I'm trying to understand what Paige did. What did Paige do? She lied to my mother. That part appears true. She kept things from me too. I leaned back. What things? Brent rubbed his forehead. Claire always handled the paperwork. That's not an answer. You know what I mean. No, I don't. He looked at me, then said, "I was angry when the divorce happened." Angry? Yes. You left her. I know what I did, Jim. Good, saves time. He ignored that. I signed things without reading them, I said. You ran a $60 million regional operation. Don't tell me you didn't understand where your signature went. He looked down. That was when I knew. Not everything. But enough. Brent was trying to build a version of the past where he had been careless instead of cruel. And carelessness felt easier to forgive. 3 days later, Claire received a letter from his attorney. The letter that changed the story again. It wasn't a custody filing. That would have been simpler. It was a proposed written statement. The attorney described it as a clarification of historical communication. Claire read the first paragraph twice. Then called me. "Dad, you need to see this." The document asked Claire to acknowledge that, during the divorce and Emma's infancy, Brent had not been adequately informed regarding the child's birth, ongoing circumstances, and later adoption process. That was carefully written. Lawyers are good at carefully written. It didn't accuse Claire directly. It just suggested enough fog that Brent could stand inside it. Then there was a second paragraph. It said the statement might be provided to relevant family and business stakeholders. That phrase bothered me. Business stakeholders. Why would a private family history need a business stakeholder? I called Barbara. She answered immediately. "Jim? Is something happening at Caldwell Building Supply?" Long pause. Then, "Yes." "What?" Barbara was 73. Her husband had died 8 years earlier. She still owned the controlling interest in the company. Brent was president. But Barbara had not yet turned over final board authority. She had been preparing to, until the wedding, until Emma, until she learned Brent had lied by omission for nearly 5 years. Barbara said, "I postponed the succession vote." There it was. Not an inheritance. Not some magical trust that made Brent poor overnight. Something more realistic. Trust. Barbara had planned to hand her son more control of a company that supported 180 employees. Then she learned he could hide a child from his own mother for years. That made her question his judgment. Brent suddenly had a very large reason to change the story. I asked, "Does Brent know you postponed it?" "Yes." "When?" "The Monday after the wedding." I closed my eyes. His first request to meet Emma had come Tuesday. That didn't prove anything. People can have two motives. Regret and self-interest are perfectly capable of sharing a car. But the timing mattered. I called Claire. She already understood. She said, "So he didn't come back because he saw Emma." He may have. He came back because his mother saw Emma. I didn't answer. Because I wasn't sure. And the truth was about to get more complicated. PAG called me. 2 weeks later, I got a call from Paige. I almost rejected it. Then curiosity won. She said, "Jim, I need to show you something." "No, please." "No. He's blaming me for all of it." That stopped me. "Brent?" "Yes." "For what?" "The letter. The lie to Barbara." "Emma," I said. "You were involved." "I know." "Then I'm not sure why you were calling me." Because there's involved. Then her voice hardened. And there's taking the whole thing. We met in a coffee shop off Interstate 64. Public place. Midday. Paige looked older. Not physically. Tired. The kind of tired people get after spending years protecting a story that has started turning on them. She put an old iPhone on the table. Cracked corner. Outdated case. I kept it because I had photos on it. What am I looking at? Messages. From who? She looked at me. Brent. I didn't touch the phone. I had spent too many years handling disputed evidence to pretend an old device automatically proved anything. I said, if these matter, Claire's attorney will need copies preserved properly. Fine. Show me. Paige opened a conversation from nearly 5 years earlier. The first screenshot was dated 3 days after Emma was born. Brent. Did Mom get anything from Claire? Paige. There's a certified envelope here. Brent. Don't let her see it. Paige. What if it's about the baby? Brent. Especially if it's about the baby. I looked at Paige. You signed for the letter. Yes. You hid it. Yes. Why? Her eyes filled. Not enough to make me feel sorry for her, she said. Because he told me his mother would never accept us if she knew Claire had his child. I looked back at the screen. There were more messages. Paige. Claire had the baby. Brent. I know. That one mattered. I scrolled. Paige. Your lawyer said there will be papers. Brent. I'll sign what I need to sign. Paige. Do you want a picture? Brent. No. Then, 2 years later. Paige. The adoption papers came. Brent. I know. Paige. You sure? Brent. Aaron wants to be her father. Let him. I stopped. My chest felt hot. Paige watched me, then said, there's one more. A message from Brent. If Mom ever asks, tell her the pregnancy didn't continue. I'm done reopening this. I put the phone down. For 5 years, I had hated Paige because I thought she helped destroy my daughter's marriage. That was still true. She had. But that afternoon, I learned something I hadn't expected. Paige was guilty. She just wasn't guilty alone. And Brent's latest version, that Paige had isolated him from Emma, was another lie. Not a complete lie. Paige had intercepted the letter. But at Brent's instruction, the truth is often uglier than the first accusation, because people rarely betray each other in neat categories. Sometimes 2 people hold the same knife. Later one of them just tries to convince you the other person pushed harder. Claire didn't want revenge. I showed Claire the messages. Not directly. Her attorney arranged for the phone data to be preserved first. Then Claire read them. I expected anger. She just looked tired. She said, I knew. You knew he didn't want Emma. I didn't know about the letter. But you knew the rest. Yes. I asked. Do you want Barbara to see these? Claire thought for a long time. Then, yes. Do you want the company board to see them? No. That surprised me. Why not? Because I'm not trying to destroy his job. He's trying to rewrite what you did. I know. He's asking you to sign a lie. I know. Then why protect him? Claire shook her head. I'm not protecting Brent. I am protecting Emma from having every adult in her life turn her existence into ammunition. That stopped me. She was right. I was still thinking like an investigator. Find truth. Establish fault. Present evidence. My daughter was thinking like a mother. What happens to the child after everyone wins? We gave the messages to Barbara privately. No social media. No dramatic family dinner. No public humiliation. Barbara read them at Claire's kitchen table. She got to the message that said, Aaron wants to be her father. Let him. Then she put the paper down. Barbara looked at Claire. I am so sorry. Claire answered. You believed what your son told you. Barbara shook her head. I didn't ask enough questions. That was an important sentence. Not. I was lied to. Not. This isn't my fault, she said. I didn't ask enough questions. Accountability is usually quiet when it's real. Barbara asked. Can I know Emma? Claire didn't answer immediately. Finally, Slowly. Barbara nodded. However slowly you need. Be 10, as false when ended. Brent kept coming to the Saturday visits. That surprised all of us. I expected him to disappear once his version of the past fell apart. He didn't. He showed up the next Saturday. No lawyer. No gift. He sat on a park bench. Emma was drawing with sidewalk chalk. After 20 minutes she walked over. She handed him the blue chalk. Make a whale, Brent said. I can't draw a whale. Emma replied. It's easy. It was not easy. His whale looked like a potato with a tail. Emma laughed so hard she fell over. Brent laughed too. I watched from 50 feet away. And I felt something I didn't want to feel. Hope. Because here was the difficult truth. Brent had started rebuilding a relationship for selfish reasons. But somewhere in the middle, the relationship became real to him. That does happen. Bad motives can lead somebody to a moment where they finally see what they missed. The problem is that seeing it does not erase missing it. Claire understood that better than anyone. She did not cancel his visits. But she changed the terms. She told Brent, you don't get to use Emma to repair your relationship with your mother. You don't get to use her to repair your image at work. You don't call yourself dad. You don't ask her to call you anything. And if you disappear again, you don't get to come back 6 months later and act like nothing happened. Brent said. Okay. Then? What do I call myself? Claire answered. Brent. He looked hurt. Claire said, you had the chance to build another name. You chose not to. That was hard. But accurate. The company didn't collapse. I need to make this clear because stories like this sometimes turn consequences into fantasy. Brent did not lose everything overnight. Caldwell Building Supply did not fire him because he was a bad father. That would have been absurd. Barbara did postpone giving him additional control. The board brought in an outside chief operating officer for 18 months. Brent remained president. But for the first time in his adult life, his mother stopped assuming. Brent is my son, therefore Brent is ready. She started evaluating him like she would evaluate anyone else. That wounded his pride more than losing money would have. He complained. Barbara said, you spent 5 years telling me a lie because you believed the truth would change how I judged you. You were correct. It did. Brent said. So this is punishment? Barbara answered. No. This is information. That line stayed with me. Consequences are not always punishment. Sometimes people simply know more about you now. And they make decisions with the new information. Paageleft. About 3 months after the wedding, Paige moved out. I didn't know until Brent told me. We were leaving one of Emma's Saturday visits. He said. Paige left. I almost said, good. Instead, I asked, why? He smiled without humor. She says I turned her into the villain so I could feel better. She's not innocent. I know. Neither are you. I know. Then Brent said something that surprised me. I think that's why she left. What? Because I finally stopped arguing. Later Claire told me Paige had called her once. Not asking forgiveness. Not asking to be friends again. Just to apologize. Claire listened. Then Paige said, you probably think I stole your husband. Claire replied, no. Paige went quiet. Claire continued. You took a man who was willing to go. That was the end of the conversation. I heard later that Paige moved to Raleigh, started over. I don't know if she became a better person. Not every story owes us that answer. The question Emma finally asked. Emma was 6 when she asked the question. By then, she knew Brent. Not well, but consistently. He attended some soccer games. Not all. He came to a school art show. He remembered her birthday. He stopped bringing giant gifts. He learned that showing up with a $40 Lego set did not count more than showing up 20 minutes early and helping carry folding chairs. One night, Emma asked Claire, is Brent my dad too? Claire had known the question was coming. She and Aaron had already talked with a family therapist about how to explain it without giving Emma adult details she didn't need. Claire said, Brent is your biological father. Emma frowned. What does biological mean? It means he helped make you. Emma thought about that. Then, and Daddy? Claire smiled. Aaron is the dad who has raised you, Emma asked. Can people have both? Yes. Do I have to call Brent Dad? No. Does it hurt his feelings? Claire answered carefully. Maybe. Emma looked worried. Claire added. But grown-ups are responsible for their own feelings. You are responsible for telling the truth about yours. That was one of the best things my daughter ever said. A year later, Emma began occasionally hugging Brent goodbye. He never asked for more. That might sound small. It wasn't. For Brent, learning not to demand the reward before doing the work was probably the hardest part. The empty photo album. When Emma turned 7, Brent gave her something. Not a toy. Not jewelry. A photo album. Completely empty. Claire looked at him. Brent said, I thought maybe. He stopped. Then looked at Emma. If we make any good memories, maybe we can put them in here. Emma opened it. Turned a few blank pages, then asked, Do I have to fill all of it? Brent smiled. No. You can fill as much as you want, Emma said. Okay. That album sat on a shelf for months. Then she added one photograph. Her soccer team. Brent was standing in the background holding an umbrella. Months later she added another. A picture from the zoo. Aaron was there too. So was Claire. So was Barbara. Brent did not get a separate album. He became one person inside the larger one. I thought that was exactly right. Barbara. Barbara became part of Emma's life slowly. Very slowly. She didn't arrive with inheritance papers. Didn't offer to pay for college. Didn't try to buy the title Grandma. Her first gift was a used copy of a children's book Brent had loved when he was 6. Inside she wrote, I knew your father when he was little. I hope someday you'll let me tell you the good parts too. That sentence impressed me. The good parts too. Not the real story. Not my side. She understood that Emma would eventually learn Brent had done something terrible. Barbara was not asking Claire to erase it. She was simply reminding us that people are larger than their worst decision. That did not mean the decision disappeared. Both things could be true. Baranek finally told the truth. Almost 3 years after the wedding, Brent asked Claire and Aaron to meet. No attorney. No Barbara. No May. He brought one sheet of paper. A letter. He read it aloud. Later Claire let me read it. It said, Claire. For years I told myself several versions of what happened. I told myself you would be better without me. I told myself Aaron wanted to be Emma's father and I was doing everyone a favor by staying away. I told myself Paige controlled what I knew. I told myself my lawyers handled things I didn't understand. None of those statements are completely false. That is why they were useful to me. But none of them are the truth. The truth is that I knew Emma existed. I knew she was mine. I knew how to reach you. I chose not to. At the time, I wanted the life I had started with Paige more than I wanted the responsibility of becoming a father. I was afraid my mother would reject my choices if she knew, so I helped hide the truth from her. Later, I signed the adoption consent because it was easier to tell myself Aaron was replacing a role I had already abandoned than to admit I had abandoned it. When I saw Emma at the wedding, I was shocked. Not because I learned she existed. I was shocked because she was real. She had a face, a voice, a laugh. A man she called Daddy. And for the first time, my choices stopped being paperwork. They became a person standing 6 feet from me asking who I was. I first came back because I was scared. I was scared of my mother, my company, my reputation. That is also true. Then I kept coming because I started loving a child I should have loved before she could walk. I know that does not make me her dad. I know it does not erase Aaron. I am not asking Claire to forgive me. I am not asking Emma to rename me. I am asking only to keep doing the work for as long as she allows it. Brent. When I finished reading it, I sat quietly for a while. Then I told Claire, "That's an apology," she said. "Yes." "Does it change anything?" she thought. Then, "It changes what comes next, not what came before." Exactly. Father's Day. Emma was 9, the year the ending of this story finally became clear to me. Her school had a Father's Day breakfast. Pancakes, coffee, construction paper cards. The kind of event that makes adults sit on tiny cafeteria benches and pretend their knees still work. Aaron went. I went because grandparents were allowed. Brent did not go. Not because he wasn't invited. Because Emma hadn't invited him. And by then he understood that distinction. Emma had made a card. On the front. And my dad. Inside she had written, "My dad fixes bridges. He makes bad pancakes. He always knows where my shoes are when Mom doesn't. He lets me hold the flashlight even when I point it the wrong way. He came to the hospital when I had stitches. He says he can sing. He cannot. I love you, Daddy." Aaron read it, then stared at the table for a suspiciously long time. I looked away. Men deserve privacy sometimes. Later that afternoon, Emma was at our house. She borrowed Claire's phone, typed something, handed it back. Claire showed me. Emma had sent Brent, "Happy Father's Day, Brent. Hope you had a good day." About 10 minutes later, "Thank you, Emma. I hope you did too." That was all. No guilt. No. "You know I'm your real father." No sad face emoji. No demand. And strangely, that was when I first believed Brent had actually changed. Not because Emma called him Dad. She didn't. Because he finally learned to accept the relationship she was willing to give him. What I got wrong. I was 71 by then. Old enough to know better. Young enough to still learn. For years I thought the lesson of this story was about Brent. A man abandoned his pregnant wife. Lost his daughter. Watched another man become daddy. Regretted it. Simple. It wasn't. It was also about Paige. A best friend who betrayed someone she loved, then helped maintain a lie because admitting the truth threatened the life she had stolen. It was about Barbara. A mother who was deceived, but eventually admitted that being deceived did not excuse never asking harder questions. It was about Claire. My daughter learned that forgiveness does not mean restoration. You can stop being angry at someone without putting them back in the role they destroyed. It was about Aaron. A man who never once demanded recognition for doing the things fathers are supposed to do. And it was about me, because I made mistakes too. The first was believing that fatherhood was powerful enough to transform a man who did not want it. The second was believing that once Brent wanted to return, Claire owed him a road back. She didn't. Emma didn't. Being sorry earns you the right to change your behavior. It does not automatically earn you access to the people your behavior hurt. That part is theirs. The last page. A few months ago, Emma showed me the old photo album Brent gave her. She's 12 now. The album is maybe 1/3 full. There's a picture of Aaron teaching her to ride a bicycle. A picture of Claire asleep on the couch with Emma's feet across her lap. Barbara at Christmas. Me holding a fish I claimed was bigger before somebody took the picture. And yes, there are pictures of Brent. Not many. But enough. One at the zoo. One at a soccer game. One from a school concert. One recent picture of Emma and Brent sitting at a diner with milkshakes between them. No caption. Just a date. I asked. You saving the rest of the pages? Emma shrugged. For whatever happens. That may be the healthiest sentence anyone in this family has ever said. For whatever happens. No promise. No punishment. No rewritten past. Just room. I used to think DNA made a father and behavior proved whether he was a good one. I had that backward. DNA makes a biological fact. Fatherhood is built somewhere else. In Tuesday night homework. In carrying a sleeping child from the car. In knowing the pediatrician's name. In showing up when there is no audience. In remembering the purple juice box. In thousands of ordinary moments nobody photographs because they don't seem important until years later. Brent gave those moments away. Aaron picked them up. And by the time Brent understood what they were worth, they already belonged to somebody else. That doesn't mean Brent's story ended. It means he had to start where his choices left him. Not as dad. Not as daddy. As Brent. And if Emma gives him more than that someday, And it will be because he earned it one ordinary day at a time. Not because of blood. Not because of guilt. Not because his mother found out. And not because a lawyer found better words for what happened. That is the part I finally understand. A man can walk away from a family in one afternoon, but becoming family, that happens minute by minute. And sometimes the hardest consequence isn't that your child hates you. It's that she doesn't. She knows exactly who you are. She accepts exactly what you chose. And after all the years you could have been dad, the only name you've earned back is your own. Brent. That was my granddaughter's last word. And as her grandfather, I think she got it exactly right.